And welcome in everybody to another episode of HRS Late Nights. I'm your host, Tony Cutillo. And as always, make sure you're following Heat Ratio Sports. And we have a fantastic show lined up tonight, man. I listen to a great day of radio. I don't normally listen to radio. That's a good day of radio, man. I did. I heard Hunter Brody on. I heard Rob Ellis on. A couple of my faves, which was pretty cool, man. So I like that. A lot of good talk. Obviously, a lot of Eagles thoughts on the mind, and a lot of interesting scenarios of what could happen and what should happen. We got the Devontae Smith injury, misses practice. He hasn't missed a game yet. Will he miss this game? And listen, this is a very deciding game for us to finally find out what these Eagles are made all out of. And we all understand that they already lock up a playoff spot, but who they play and how they play is a different story. So we're going to have the great Chris Franklin on in about 6 to 7 minutes. You can follow him at C Franklin News. Make sure you get him up on your Twitter poll. Go nj.com. I'm going to have the link flying by on the scroll. Make sure you hit him up. He is a fantastic reporter and beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles. Every time I see an interview, I see Chris with his phone. I saw him with the A.J. Brown conference. I saw after the last game. He's always around, man. He's always around, which is fantastic. I love it, man. He's a great dude, and I can't wait to get him on. And again, we talked a lot of Sixers with Michael KB of 97.3 ESPN. I loved his conversation as well. I podcasted that on the Heat Ratio YouTube page. You'll see exclusive interviews. These are exclusive because they're coming here, right? So you can just click on and listen to the interview. Got some Blue Coat stuff coming up. What about Ricky Council again, man? Just going off. Make sure you follow the Heat Ratio Sports Instagram page as well, and go vote. Go vote for those Blue Coats. For NBA G League All-Star game, man. My man Thomas Knight, my man Tony, how you doing? Thomas, what's up, buddy? I see the Houston Astros logo, man. I love it. I love it. Thomas, man, people don't know, and this is why I love doing this. Me and Thomas, we used to go back and forth with the World Series with the Phillies and the Houston Astros, man. So I love this. He's checking in. We would always go live on the Final Judgment. I'm trying to swing everything over to Heat Ratio Sports, trying to build this network. That's what we're doing. So if you're listening as well, like I've told people before, if you want to host a show, if you're looking to host a show on Heat Ratio Sports Network, you let me know. I guarantee you we can offer you some really cool tools to use and help you promote too. I run my own PR business. I know how media works, and I can help you get to where you need to go. I can guarantee you that. Just ask around. It's a fun thing if you do it the right way. And Thomas, man, it's been a crazy off season. It's been a crazy all season, man. I'm curious on what Major League Baseball holds for us. But what I want to talk about tonight, I have a couple topics on my mind. Number one, I want to talk NFL power couples. Now, everybody wants to know what is NFL power couples, right? Now, the way my mind works is, honestly, it works in crazy ways. And there's been a lot of talk, and rightfully so, for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens and how good they really are. And I was sitting there at lunch today with my son as I take as much time with my kids as I can. And we were talking football. And he asked me about Lamar and he asked me about John Harbaugh. I started thinking, I'm like, who would I like if I was a person that like a business person and bought a franchise, and it was almost like genie in a bottle, right? No pun intended. Christina Aguilera, great song, by the way. Love Christina Aguilera. But what if I was able to pick, or you were able to pick, your own power couple to lead your franchise? And what I mean by power couple is because the other night we talked about, is it more the head coach or is it more the quarterback? And I'm going to ask Chris Franklin that as well, because I'm curious to see what he says. But the question I have for you is, who would be your power couple? Now, you can't take a quarterback and a coach from a different team. I'm talking right now, active NFL. And obviously, two of the top ones are going to be Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh. That's what I'm asking. I'm asking, think about that through this entire episode Okay, before because we're gonna go a good 15 minutes with Chris. He's gonna talk a ton of things Eagles, a ton of things NFL playoffs. But who is your power couple? Now, it's fun. Now, no, now here's the thing, Thomas. The NFL power couple is going to be the head coach and the quarterback. So if you want, obviously, I get it. CJ Stroud, man. You guys hit a gold mine with CJ Stroud. Congratulations. And I think you hit a gold mine with D'Amico Ryans. So that would be your power couple, would be D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud, right? So again, you got it. Is a power couple for this segment is going to be a head coach and quarterback, right? So is it Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes? Is it John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson? Is it Sean McVay, Matt Stafford? Is it Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts? Right? This is what I'm talking about. So that's the power couple. So I want to hear who would be your power couple. And I mean, obviously, this came out of a debate. Would you rather have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, or would you rather have Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh? So my man Joe checking in. He said Hurts and Fredo. Always makes you laugh, man. I love it. Oh man, there you go. Russell, what Russell Wilson and Sean Payton, man. What a terrible situation that is. I'm going to be honest. Now Adam was a power call. He says Dan Campbell, Jared Goff. Very interesting. I'm not a Jared Goff guy. People know that. I'm not a Jared Goff guy. I've never been a Jared Goff guy. I think Jared Goff is not a good player. I think he has moments. I'm sorry. I just don't. Not a fan. But the Russell Wilson, that whole dilemma out there is just weird. It's just weird, man. Like, and I don't like it. I'll be honest with you. I don't like it. I think it's not right. I think Russ was the ultimate professional, within this entire situation, right? And what is Sean Payton thinking? Like, does he have somebody in mind? That's what I would like to know. And again, if you want to join me live right now, I'm going to tweet out the StreamYard link. And again, this is audio only. Okay. So don't worry, don't get scared. Don't think if you click on the link, you're going to get on camera. You're not. This is audio only. Again, this is like streaming radio, people. I keep saying that. This is like streaming radio. It really is. This is what we do now, right? This is what we do. So I'm going to put it in right here. I'm going to put it in the chat so you guys have it. If you get on your phone and you literally click on that link, it's going to put you on the air. It's going to put you in the backstage. I'll put you on the air. You'll hear exactly what you're hearing now, and we'll have a conversation. And this is laid back atmosphere, man. It's a laid back atmosphere where we talk whatever you want. I have topics I want to talk about, but like the other night, man, we started talking about the 1989 World Series. Like, who the hell knew we would talk about that? But the Russell Wilson, Sean Payton issue to me will just go down as just absolutely weird. I tell everybody this all the time. I'm a big pro-union guy. I'm a pro-union guy. I worked in a union environment, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There's a reason why these guys hold out. There's a reason why these guys hold out, and you see it right now at Russ, and you know what? Good for him. Good for him. Now, we had a lot of Eagles news today. Obviously, I think we have a lot of Eagles news forever, it seems like, for this entire year, wondering what is going on. And I have my own kind of opinions about it, and nothing mean, nothing crazy. I do think that it's fixable to a point, but we have to see it, right? And we have a big game this weekend. It's crazy. Big game against the Giants, right? And they're playing. Listen, let's remember, Dable's playing. Those players are playing, man. Like, you have to think about this. I just did a DraftCast show last night for Win Daily and Sirius, and we were talking about that. Like, what these guys are playing for on specific games. And there's a lot to play for, man. There's a lot to play for. And the Eagles right now, let me tell you something. The Eagles are playing for pride. Okay, even though they made the play, they're playing for pride to show that they are the team to be. And to talk about that, man, we got live on the Rise and React Media line. We got Chris Franklin at C Franklin News. right out of NJ.com. Like I said, I have them scrolling. You make sure. It says all the time. I have these guests on, number one, because they're amazing, but number two, because you need to follow these people if you want credible information. Chris, I saw you the other day. I saw you right there with your phone at AJ, right in front of AJ locker room. I was like, there he is, man. He showed up again. You're always on the scene, man. How you doing, buddy?
Not bad, man. And remind me to make sure I get your Venmo for that introduction you gave me, man. I owe you some money for that. No, this
No,
was not brought
listen,
to you by
man.
Tony.
Here's the thing. It's fine. I had Michael KB on from 97.3 ESPN to talk Sixers the other day, and Anthony went off. I mean, we had a great conversation. You've been on me multiple times, and I said this afterwards, and you know this. You know, I said I went on this big rant about how beat writers get no respect, and people just don't understand. Like, you have to live, breathe, and eat your craft. Like, in the beginning, like, part of you get paid like shit. You're running around like crazy. You're eating in your car. You're trying to get the story. And nowadays, man, you got to do social media. You got to do your own promos. You got to, like, you need a staff of 10 people, and you got to do it all by yourself, man. So I commend you guys for everything you do, man. I really do.
I appreciate. Yeah, we're investigators. We're this one too, and our loved ones are like, do you get sleep? Half the times, like, well, sleep is a theory.
Yeah.
Regular schedules are a theory, but yeah, it's craziness. But I appreciate it. It's a lot of work, but we love it. We keep doing it to ourselves because we love the job, and it's fun, man. It's fun.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's something to say. I learned this a long time ago, because people, I always say I always chose health over money all the time, but I also wanted to always be able to do what I love to do. And you can make a lot of money. That's fine. But at the end of the day, if you hate what you do, you're always going to hate going to work. You're not going to enjoy yourself. So I'd rather just take that step back and enjoy myself. And I know that's what you guys do too. And you do a great job. And, covering this team this year, Chris, I'll tell you what, this has been, well, talk about a rocky road, man. You've had your work cut out for you this year.
Was that a James Taylor song? We've seen fire, we've seen rain, we've
Yeah.
seen sunny day.
Oh my
It's been
God.
craziness between a team that was 10-1 and like they're going to run away with this conference. Like, and have there was a time, I know you remember this. There's a time when there's a scenario coming up where they could have been the first team to clinch a playoff spot in division. Now you're looking at, will this team potentially be even a wild card team? It's just crazy how much this team has fallen from grace in a lot of aspects, and it's confounding. And then you have these big names, Julio. Yeah, it's hard to forget. You still have Julio Jones on this team. You still have Kevin Byard on this team. You got all pros join this team midseason. It's a nonstop circus of news, man. It's crazy.
No, it is. It really is. And there's so much to break down, and there's so many questions, and unfortunately, a lot of it's speculative. I mean, because none of us really know. I don't care who it is. None of us really know. I think even some of these players don't understand why things are happening. And listen, we had a storybook year last year. We should have won the Super Bowl. We didn't. If my man Thomas, we got Thomas Light checking us, that the Eagles fall off is insane. Here's a Houston Texans fan, a Houston Astros fan. He even sees it. And I did see one thing, Chris. One thing I thought, a lot of people were killing AJ Brown, and I get it, man. Like, the media is crazy. Not everybody's like, honestly, not everybody's like Chris Franklin, right? Not everybody's credible in the sense that you're not looking for fabricated stories. You're not looking for, things of that nature just to get your name out there. And, AJ is like, look, if I'm going to say anything, they're going to take it any way they want anyway. So why don't I say nothing? But the thing I will commend them on, I think personally, that took, even more of a step of him being a leader, because he saw how much it was weighing on the entire team. And finally say, you know what, even though I feel this way, I got to go out there and I got to speak my mind. I think that's why he did what he did.
It's tough for anybody to go in front. Whenever we have to go, whenever you have to go and stand in front of your teammates, your colleagues, or whatever, and apologize. Hey, that's always a tough thing. But for him to be able to do that and realize that it was weighing on everybody, I respect that a lot. And it wasn't like hey, I want to issue a statement on Twitter and then that'll be it. We're going to forget about it. No, he really stuck up. And the fact, the one thing for me that I really was impressed by was that when he talked about the Seattle game, where he admitted he was freelancing and that
Yep.
Nick took the fault, that Nick took the blame for everything like that, saying drawing the pass interference. He's looking to draw pass interference, and for Nick to do that, I think we're seeing that the benefit of Nick and how much he values his players and be willing to do that and cover for his players, and B for AJ to say like, yo, listen, stop, for lack of better words, stop making stuff up about us. I really look at him in an even better light. I respected him a lot beforehand because I felt bad because even before this, 2 weeks before he went on the silence, there was that story that came out saying that the offense was predictable and everything else. Well, there was somebody on social media attributed saying, "Oh no, it was him," and it wasn't. It was an unnamed player. We still don't know who it is. I'm trying. It's almost like being in Colombo trying to find out who this
Yeah.
unnamed player was. Like, who said this? But yeah, he got pictures were going around saying, "Oh, AJ Brown said that one," and he started getting vilified. That's when he really was starting to get vilified,
Yep.
and you feel bad for him. He told us like we were talking in the lockers, and like he's telling a bunch of us like when you see, you feel for him in a way. But the way he stood up, I think you're going to need young guys like this because the core of this team, the Brandon Grahams, the Jason Kelsey's, the Fletcher Coxes. They're not going to. There's a chance they're not about be back this year or the next year or the year after that. One of those years we don't know yet because we're in a year. So you need this young core to step up. It can't just be Jalen. You need to see some of these other young leaders, and he's solidifying himself as one of those other young leaders.
Yeah, I think so too, man. And people forget this guy is young, man. He's not an old player at all. I think what's he 24, 25. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like people think he's been around forever. He really hasn't. I mean, it's crazy. Now a good friend of the program, Joe says, and I agree with this. Joe says if they're freelancing, that shows no trust in the calls. And I gotta be honest. This is the way I think it is. And tell me if I'm way off base. I'm thinking, you know, to me, everybody's just pointing a finger at Brian Johnson, Brian Johnson, Brian Johnson. But my whole thing is, I don't think it's just one specific person, but if they are out there freelancing and they are out there shrugging their shoulders a little bit and they are confused, to me, I keep saying to myself, man, they don't trust what's being called. And for the life of me, Chris, this is 100% speculative. I said this last night, but Brian Johnson was one of the biggest reasons why Jalen Hurts had such a tremendous year last year. He knows Jalen Hurts. Jalen wanted him as an OC. So why on God's earth would Brian Johnson call plays that he knows are not in Jalen's wheelhouse and wouldn't benefit him? That's what I'm boggling my mind. Like you said, Colombo, there are the things I think about that don't make any sense.
well, there's also some influence in there when you have the head coach saying he wants to play a certain style because he wants to settle for a field goal or
Yeah.
after a penalty, like you saw last week. Because when you look at Nick Sirianni, he's not. I know everybody sees a tush push, brotherly shuffle, whatever you want to call it. They say, "Oh wow, he's aggressive." In nature, he's really conservative. And so
Yes.
a lot of times when he doesn't want to give the ball up, he wants to rely on defense. Well, if he had a better defense, that's a whole other argument. But I think a lot of times he's conservative on that stuff. So that's why I think, and a lot of this offense is based off reads. You can tell us count the box, check what's going on. RPO goes one way, bubble screen another way. It's a lot of that stuff is read based, so that it relies back on that too. So there's so many Brian, I will say this: Brian, he deserves some blame. Nick Sirianni deserves blame. Jalen Hurts blame. Like a lot
Yep.
of there's a lot of times you can see it. It seems like it's a rotating thing. They just need 1 week. Well, they want to go the route they're going right now. They're going to need 5 weeks of basically stopping that we're all on the same page. Because if not, it'll be a sad thing to see a 10-1 team get bounced in the first round.
Oh man, it is. That's such a horrible thought. It really is. And again, we're talking to Chris Franklin. Give him a follow at cfranklinnewsnj.com. I have his link to the staff link to his website, man. He has tons of content every day on social media. And you just wrote up, talk about a horrible dream. We saw Devontae Smith, get hurt, and he wasn't at practice today. What's your feeling on Devontae? I mean, he hasn't missed a game in his whole career as the Eagles, but I just have that feeling that he's not going to be ready to go.
I think he's going to try to give it. In the cold weather, the way they're talking about potentially still like rainy, freezing, sleet, and everything else. He'll still try it to go. But the thing they have on their side is the game's not till 4:25, so that gives them time to
Okay.
warm it up and work it out. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see him on the field. I mean, the one time I thought was it a couple weeks ago when he had that knee thing. We didn't see him the first 2 weeks. Next thing you know, on Friday he's out there stretching. He's limited and he goes and plays. They're saying it was a minor thing. Like he was walking around the locker room, saw him saw in the last 2 days he's walking around the locker room. It's like it looks like he's all right, but it's a whole different thing when you're running. So I think he's going to try to give it a go pregame, and if he's good to go, then he's going to be out there. Might, for all we know, it could be one of those things where they did in his rookie season when they wanted him. They're trying to get him to a one of those milestones. He was out there, got one catch, they pulled him, so that way he wouldn't play till the following playoff game against the Bucks. So it could be a similar thing that they do that there. But if he's any semblance, if he's 51% to 55, if he's 51% or greater, he's going to be playing. I think.
Yeah, I listen, you could be right, man. I mean, he's got that eye of the tiger, man. Yeah, he really does. He's a tough dude. You wouldn't think about him that way because he's so small and thin, but he takes a beating. And I'll tell you, one of the things I keep thinking about, and I may get this wrong, I'm not sure. I think next year is going to be an option year for
Mhm.
Devontae Smith, right? And
Yep.
will it be the last year for AJ Brown? He's on a 4-year deal, right? Is this the third or the second year? I
This
forget.
would be he signed it last year, the
Okay.
second year, so he'll be going to his third year.
So I
He'll be
think
going to
that's
his
going to be an interesting thing. You can't possibly pay two basically number one receivers on the team. So I mean, look, I know it's looking down a road, but I mean, in essence, they're going to have to make a decision, aren't they?
I think I wouldn't be surprised if anything. I wouldn't be surprised if AJ restructures
Yeah,
because
that's yeah.
it's crazy as it sounds. Those two, like you think when you have two guys of that caliber, you think you'd be one of those things where, oh, I want the ball, no, I want the ball, no, I want the ball. No, they legitimately like each other so much so. And I reported this previously in the past when AJ was last year when AJ was up for the Pro Bowl, Devontae was an alternate. If they hadn't gone, AJ would have gone and say, you know what, I'm hurt, and I put that in quotation marks to
Yep.
give Devontae a chance to go that way too. The two are always talking to each other that way too. There's a legitimate bond. I mean, even when Brown was talking yesterday, he said he can't do this without Smitty. He knows they need each other, and it's not lip service. They actually genuinely like each other. So I wouldn't be surprised if a move like that, because AJ, even if they restructure his contract, he's still going to get paid. He's still going to get that money, and you at least buy yourself two. And here's another thing you can possibly look at too: the way, just like Patrick Mahomes does with his contract, you have Jalen Hurts. His contract can always be restructured to free up some more money as well too. So that keep that in the back of your mind when you look at that. Blaine Johnson's he has that has his weird 1 year extension, so like $32 million, something like that crazy. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he restructures that too. So there's things in place so they can get some money so they can put Devontae Smith on the cap, and they need them because this offense. If you keep the three of the Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and you keep Devontae Smith all together, it could be a couple. You have at least 2, 3, maybe 4 years of guys of production from that offense.
That's a good point, man, because they do restructure a lot and they do put that big money at the end so they can restructure and give people a couple more deals. And I think that's a great point. And I think that also shows that these guys like playing here, like you said. I mean, they wouldn't be privy to do that. Now, these two guys almost, I kept trying to think of a scenario where two basically number one receivers were so unselfish in the NFL. And I keep going back to Julio Jones and Roddy White. And I think
Yep.
people forget how good Roddy White really was. And, Matt Ryan and at that time, they had Tony Gonzalez.
Yep.
So you think about that, you're like, wow, like, that could be our big three with Dallas Goddard. You never know.
Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt. That's another
Yep.
combo where you look at
Greatest
those
show
like
on turf.
yep, they have a lot. They have the pieces there now. Goddard, and this is all speculation on that front. The Goddard one, he's going to be due up pretty soon too. So
Yep.
that's where I'm very interested in the next year's draft to see what the team does. If they draft a tight end, that
Mhm.
might start to deal this, and they might start. I'm starting looking at Steelers like, oh, draft a tight
Yeah.
end. It's like when they drafted Goddard when Zach Ertz was here. Oh, here we go now. So I think that's something to watch for next year. But yeah, they have a core of not just the skill position, but offensive line and everything else. They have a core for this offense to be successful. We know how Jeffrey Lurie loves his offense, so
Oh,
yeah, it's
yeah.
important.
Oh yeah, he love Big Jeff loves the offense, man. We know that he's all about the points. And I'll tell you what, speaking of points, I gotta ask you this. Like, I can't. You alluded to the defense, and we talked about the defense, and I get it. We could talk about all night, but I just never saw before in my life as a fan, as an analyst, a host, whatever, a defense that broke nearly a sack record the year before, can't even get to a quarterback. And it just seems so odd. You can't like every single one of these players can't be that bad. And it's crazy. Even the secondary, I think the secondary gets a raw deal. I do. I don't. I think it's more the safeties than it is the corners. And I think last year people had to realize that we had so many sacks, we got to the quarterback so much that they didn't have to play cover corners, man. They didn't have all that time to have to run around with these guys, and now they do, and they're getting exposed. But that's really not what they're paid to do. So I can't believe whether it's the side, whether it's Patricia, whether it's culture, whether it's coaching. But I mean, do you think that we can fix this, man? Like, and actually be able to win a couple playoff games?
Who would have thought they would have said Jonathan Gannon? Well, you
Yes.
missed Jonathan Gannon, but the one thing I will say this: the schedule was a lot harder this year than it was last year. But the one thing that Gannon did very well was that he really used he had the defensive line and the second back seven in sync. And when I look at the defense that they have this year, the defensive line is doing one concept, the linebackers are doing another concept, and the secondary is doing something different. And it always seems to be difficult. You see communication issues. You see the back end. It's tough to play this matchup zone that they love to use, the Fangio scheme with these matchups, and it's really tough. And you need to really have a lot of veterans or guys who can do it quickly. And one thing and reason is because they're having communications. I think that's part of it too. You're not seeing the sacks, and everybody's in the three levels are doing things completely different. It's not allowing the defensive line to get there in time, and then you don't get if you allow a quarterback to start scanning the field, your secondary starts to get picked apart. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did like if they started looking around during this off season for a defensive coordinator. I mean I know that it said like Patricia. I know they said that Desai is a very important piece of that. But even when both of them have taken the helm, the defensive line with all these players here is still not being as effective as they were. If anything, you could truly say that when Desai was under control, the defensive line was at least getting more pressures than they were currently with Patricia. So it's a it's a it's I don't know when you're looking at this. I think they do it against the Giants. I think they better do it against the Giants. But I think they do
Yeah.
against the Giants. Buccaneers. I think they can handle enough. I mean, Mike Evans is Mike Evans, and you pretty much have to go back to the same game plan you had in week 3 when you played them and they won. Which they held them to 11 points under the side. Wink,
Yep.
wink, nudge, nudge. But when you look at everything else, I don't know. I don't know how you stop this offense stops San Fran. I don't know how you stop Dallas in Dallas. And even frankly, if they're on the road, if Detroit somehow they face Detroit on the road, I don't know how they stop them too. Because Jameer Gibbs against the run defense right now pretty much scares me. And David Montgomery, whoever, doesn't matter who's back there against the way they've missed tackles and everything else, pretty much scares me if I'm the Eagles.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. 100%. Again, we got Chris Franklin on the line at C Franklin News, beat reporter for the Eagles, NJ.com. Make sure you're following that link that's scrolling across the screen. You get all his articles that he does on a tremendous basis every single day. Chris, I'll get you out of here on these last two. Number one, let me just ask you this because I look at this team and we lived through the Andy Reid era where Andy would always say we don't need a number one receiver. And right, we went through
Yep.
that until we got To, and it was like, whoa, what happened? Is there a possibility for this team, who obviously does not value linebackers, to do the same flip of a script in this offseason and say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to go out and do that? Because I look around and I look at these top teams. They all have a tremendous linebacking core, and we're the only one that doesn't. And I know it's their culture, but do you think they'll ever flip the script like they did with To and they actually go after that position?
I have a better chance of growing an afro right now than that ever happening. Kid. That's not happening with this one.
I
Yeah,
love it, man. I
this
love it.
team really is not going that they're built from they built the shell concept. Build the defensive lines. They've been doing that forever. And then the Andy Reid's imprint's still on here. Build along the line of scrimmage, get some cover corners on there, and then just try to develop a linebacker and safety and hope they do that.
Man,
Reed Blankenship, who's arguably being your best safety, undrafted free agent. And you see what's happened right now when it comes to linebackers. Jacoby Dean he's still recovering. I don't think we're seeing it for the rest of the season because he was walking with a cane.
ooh,
It's better, but he had to roll the knee scooter earlier a few weeks ago, but now he's elevated to walking now with the assistance of the cane. So he's still that plantar fasciitis is still messing with him. So I don't think we'll see him for the rest of the season. But I think when you look at that, it's if anything, I think your fix is you get a veteran linebacker who won't be too cost so much. and you draft a guy again, probably maybe with a maybe the big thing was, hey, the Eagles use a second round pick on a linebacker. They're not going to use the first one because Jerry Robinson was the last one, and that was like
Wow,
79 or something like that. So yeah, it's not happening anytime soon. So
man.
yeah, get ready for. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to. They talk to Shaq Leonard because Sirianni's affinity for him, and yeah, I don't know where the next T.J. Edwards is coming from. I don't know where they get the linebackers from, but it's probably the starting linebacker. You may have Shaq Leonard starting, but the other one, maybe Zach Cunningham comes back. But yeah, it's good luck.
That's crazy, man. It's just, I mean, listen, I know it's their mentality, but here's the thing, you could build a line all you want, but when you draft a guy like Jordan Davis who's not producing, and you put all your eggs in that kind of basket. I mean, it kind of leaves you out, in the ocean, not being able to swim. And but I guess they just take their chances. I don't know. I think, like you said, it's just one of those things that they're going to stick to the script and keep plugging away. I'll get you out on this. Just fun question. I opened this up to everybody tonight, and I've had some great answers. And I had a question last on the show, and I asked everybody: is it to you? Is it more important to have a better head coach than a quarterback, or is it more important to have the great quarterback and an average head coach? And the reason why I asked that is I look around and listen, my favorite coach of all time will always be Mike Tomlin. And just seeing Mike Tomlin out there continue to get garbage out of gold and never have a losing season and always in the playoff hunt. You look at Stefanski that's just rolling over quarterbacks. I just think like maybe it is the coach. And if it is, if Chris Franklin was owned a team today, who would your power couple be? And what I mean is, if you could take one head coach and one quarterback, and I know you can't be biased, okay, but if you could take
I'm
one
not.
head coach and one quarterback from the same team, obviously, is it Reid Mahomes? Is it Jackson Harbaugh? Who would those guys be?
That's a very good question. With my Powerball money, I'm probably going to buy. Oh, that's tough.
Right?
That's really because I can see Reed Mahomes because then I can still get the most out of that, but I still reminded of Andy's clock management, and that still
Yep.
scares me if I comes on that one too. Part of me, oh, I gotta think
It's a
about
tough
this
one,
one
man.
because there's a lot of average coaches out there that lucked into some really good
Yeah.
quarterbacks. I'm like, I mean, see, I don't like Purdy like that. I like even Shanahan when it comes to that system. I'm not a big Shanahan guy, but the
Okay.
system works really good, and his
It
clock
does.
management kind of skills. You know
I,
what? I probably have to go. I'm gonna have to go read. I'm gonna have to go read Mahomes, and I'm gonna have to get Andy Reid in front of and say, you know what? No cheeseburgers, no nuggies, whatever you want for it. Sit inside this room for the rest of the summer. View what the clock management has done. Other teams have done with clock management wise, and fix this because it's about time. You've been in the league too long for that to happen.
Yeah, man. I love it, man. I love because it does, man. That's the one thing that will always follow Andy Reid, man. No matter what, the clock management kills him. And hey, listen, Kansas City's dealing with the same thing we dealt with Andy Reid out there. They have no receivers whatsoever, and nobody can catch a ball. So you might as well have James Thrash, Todd Pickens, and Charles Johnson out there. It doesn't matter.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. The Charles Johnson torn small year. Oh my
Yeah, Torrent,
gosh.
the Indianapolis Colts, Torrent Small, man. Like,
Oh my
think about
goodness.
all the dreck that we went through, man. Like, it's
Nate Brown.
crazy. They,
Nate Brown.
the training camp superstar, man. Chris T. Jones.
Oh, I
Like,
forgot about that name. Oh,
yeah,
Reggie
man.
Brown.
Re-
Reggie
Oh,
Brown. He
oh
was
my,
the
Reggie.
next one.
Oh my God. Think about it, man. It's just so crazy.
I'm
We
triggered
went
now.
through them all, man. We went
I'm
through them
really
all.
triggered. I don't know what to do now. I need to go to my safe space, man, because that's a really, really tough. Those names. Oof. Oh boy.
I know, man. You got yeah, and honestly, man, that's why, like, I do this because yeah, I want to do like give everybody an alternative, and I'm like a historian. I like going back and thinking, and it's great to talk about the trending topics, but it's also go back. Like I still think the kids of today. I'm 45, and these kids, like I try to tell my kids, like you don't know enough of how these games were built. Like you're always looking at Steph Curry. You've never went back to the 80s or the 90s and watched the NBA because 30 years where you're going to learn. Like they paved the way for those guys. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I love doing that. But Chris, listen, man. I appreciate it as always. I know you're a busy dude, and to come at 11:15 at night on the late night show and give me 20, 25 minutes to us an audience, I'm forever grateful, man. I really appreciate it.
Dude, man, you're always good people, man. If I got free time, man, you know I'm there, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. It's a lot of fun as always,
Oh
Tony,
yeah,
man. I
man.
appreciate it.
Anytime, anytime. And tell the audience you have something coming up. And like I've always told you, man, if you need any help getting the word out for anything, you let me know. And if you're ever in Bucks County, man, we'll have to get
I didn't
together
forget
for a
about
drink.
that. I did not forget about that. No,
Don't
no, no,
forget
no.
about
We
it,
were
bro.
getting a
That's all
drink.
me, man.
You know, man. And, yeah, we're definitely going out and having a drink, man. Definitely
Oh
sounds
yeah.
great.
Definitely. So what you got going on for the rest of the week? Anything big? Obviously, besides the 4 o'clock Eagles game.
No, I'm just prepping for that and getting ready for the playoff stuff, the playoff push, and getting some content out ready for that. So I'm looking forward to it. And it's gonna. I think you're gonna have when all said and done, we're gonna have a good field of 14 teams. Yeah, even the NFC South's gonna have to be included with that. But we're gonna have a good field of 14 teams, and it'll be good. It'll be good football to watch. It'll be exciting to watch.
Yeah, man. Enjoy it. Right. We got a month left of football, man. A month left.
That hurts hearing
Yeah,
that.
I know. And then we have to. Spring training comes around, and we're all baseballed up, man. And maybe the Sixers can do a little something special. We'll see, man.
That would be nice.
It would be nice. I'll tell you what, man. They're actually making me at least excited about the passion that they play with. So, I am happy about that. So you never know, man. You never know.
Man. It's
Never
fun
know.
times.
But
Fun
thanks
times.
again, man. Listen, I greatly appreciate as always, Chris, and you're always welcome on the show. And like I said, anything you ever need from me, man, I'm always there. I appreciate it.
Likewise, man. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Tony.
You got it, man. Have a great night.
You too.
That is Chris Franklin on the line, man. Listen, like I say all the time, man, I love the people that we get on this program. Like, did you hear what Chris said? Like, I cannot wait. Like, let's just think about this for 1 second. Okay. Think about what Chris said. The one thing that I love, and this is where you're not going to get anywhere else, right? You're not going to get anywhere else except Chris being live on the line tonight. You just heard him talk about the defense, about how they're playing such a difficult style to where each part of the structure, each part of the defensive tier is running a different motion, man. That's confusing as hell. So again, it's coaching. It's got to be tough, man. It's got to be tough, and it's showing that it's really, really. And again, I just hope they can get it right. I just hope they can get it right. And look, man, I stumped him on that power call. I like how he talked about Andy Reid. I liked how he talked about the clock management. Here we go, reading Mahomes, and like he says, Powerball money. He's actually betting on Smitty playing, which is listen. I hope he does. And it was good to hear him talk about the relationship that he sees between AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and talk about the contracts. So that's a good stuff, man. It was great stuff. Great 20, 25 minutes. As always, Chris, I know he's off the air right now, but we always thank him for coming on. He's fantastic. Doesn't have to take the time. And you heard it, man. You locked it down. I told him, man, like these beat writers that they work their ass off, man. So whenever I get a chance to go out and have a good time and treat somebody to dinner and a couple drinks, man, I'm gonna do it because we treat. That's the one thing I always never understood, right? I never understood. And Joe, I got something to ask you too about the Marcus Hayes thing. I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to put Chris on the spot with that, but I want to talk to you about that for a minute. But one thing I don't understand, we always say that players like Jason Kelsey and players like Brian Dawkins and players like Bryce Hart, they'll never buy a drink in this town, right? We always never buy a drink in this town. How come the beat writers always have to buy a drink though? They give you the information. And I'm telling you right now, man, like think about this, right? Just think about this scenario. You have a professional sports team that's making millions upon millions upon millions, right? Like the LA Dodgers. The LA Dodgers go out and they spend millions of dollars on all the free agents. And I guarantee you, one of the most important people in that organization is their social media manager. And you know how much their social media manager is probably making? 30 grand a year. Probably not even making that. Probably an intern. Why is that so? I don't understand. They don't value the little people that make all this shit happen. That's what always killed me about it. That's why, listen, and I'm a little guy myself, right? But if I can offer to break bread with people I respect and people that work their ass off in this industry that, ask for nothing. I'm going to do it any day of the week. So, again, Chris Franklin, make sure you follow him at C Franklin News. Again, he's always been very cordial, always been willing to jump on a program. And he's good people, man. Like you said, very, very good people. Adam says Freddie Mitchell, Todd Pinkston. Yeah, man. Listen, we had a lot. We had a lot of interesting names in Philadelphia. But I want to hear more about these NFL power couples, man. Like, is it that obvious? Is it that obvious that you would take a guy like a duo like Reid and Mahomes, or are you going to take Lamar and John Harbaugh, or is it somebody I'm not mentioning? You heard him talk about possibly Shanahan and Purdy. Would you take a shot with McVay and Stafford? Stafford having a good year. And what about that? What's your take on Stafford making the Pro Bowl over Jalen Hurts? Are you surprised? Do you think Jalen got snubbed? Do you think that all the adversity around the team had caused the voters to leave him as an alternate instead of a starter, even though his numbers with the rushing are better than Matthew Stafford? I mean, he's breaking all kinds of rushing records. Is that a slap in the face because they don't want to admit that the tush push actually works and that he's getting a lot of these touchdowns because of that play? I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to think about, right? A lot of things you have to think about. Adam says, Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence. I will tell you this, Adam. I hate to burst your bubble, but number one, I am not a Doug Peterson guy. And number two, I'm never going to be a Trevor Lawrence guy. I don't know, man. It's funny, if my kids were listening to this right now, they would be like, Dad, why do you not like Trevor Lawrence? I don't like him. I just don't like him. That's not the person, right? When people get all crazy and talk about, oh, how do you not like the guy? You don't even know. First of all, we're talking about the football player, man. Like, he could be the nicest dude in the world. I don't know. I'm talking about the football player, right? Trevor Lawrence, to me, will just always be an average quarterback. He's not going to be great. He's going to be good, right? He's going to be good. So, to me, good is not good enough in the NFL. You just can't be good. You have to be great. And I don't see Trevor Lawrence ever being great. Just my opinion. I could be dead wrong. And I hope he makes me eat crow. And I hope he wins a Super Bowl. I do. I don't want to see anybody that doesn't succeed. I'm just saying, me personally, I don't see it, man. I don't see it. Just saying. I don't see it. Now, let me ask about this, man. Let me ask about this. So, Joe, if you're still listening, you mentioned about Marcus Hayes. And I know, listen, I want to ask you because you're going to give it to me straight. Okay. And I don't think you were listening last night when I went off on my media rant. But my point and my question to you, right? You say horrible article, and again, that's your prerogative, right? But my thing is, why? And I ask this because a lot of people on social media, we're killing Marcus Hayes, number one, for the article, and number two, trying to say that he wrote it specifically to get clicks and to get attention. And my comeback to that is, why in the hell does Marcus Hayes need to get attention? Why does he need to make something clickbait? Explain that to me. He's Marcus Hayes, bro. Like I'm not. I'll be honest with you. He's one of my favorite writers in this town. Listen. You may not agree with a lot of stuff that he says, but he tells it like it is, man. And he's been doing it for a long time. And I love reading his articles. And listen, do I agree with them all the time? No, I never agree with anybody all the time. But I trust his judgment, because let's remember something. At the end of the day, their job as a reporter is not to be a fan, right? They can't be a fan. They have to be a reporter. That's the job. The job is to report what they hear, report what they're told. And when these guys do that, they get buried, right? They get buried. Now, again, if this is a reporter that just started and is looking for followers and looking for, okay, right? Okay. Like, let's be honest. Like, again, And if Joe Giglio wrote it, all right, it's clickbait, right? Because to me, well, Joe Giglio is not on a Marcus Hayes level. Okay. Marcus Hayes been doing it for 20 something years, man. 20. And I respect that dudes have been doing it for that long and that been in the business for that long. I highly respect it because, again, it's such a grind. It's such a grind. And when you think about that, right? You think about that, you think about how much time and effort they put into getting to their next step. And back then, they didn't do that by writing fictitious articles. They didn't do it by writing these empty, these empty driven headlines. They did it by just reporting, right? And giving you a little bit of what they feel, right? Like technically, look, technically, when I had my rant last night about AJ Brown and about what's going on with the offense, that's just because somebody told me. That's me being speculative. I'm speculating, right? I'm speculating. Um, and again, it's what you're paid to do when you're at that level. You're not locking it down, right? You're saying what you've heard and you're giving your take on it, your opinion, right? Your professional opinion. And I say that because guess what? That's what you're doing. Now Adam says, and he's bringing up reporters, which I love. Adam says, where do you rank Ruben, Frank, Ray Didinger? Ray to me is always going to be the GOAT. Ray is always going to be the GOAT to me. He is one of those guys that you just have to be a fan of. You do. Because very professional guy, not afraid to speak his mind. And and what Ray did, Ray carved a path for a lot of people, man. He carved a path for a lot of people. Now, I like Ruben Frank. I'm a big Ruben Frank guy. I say it all the time. I'm a big Ruben Frank guy. Now Rube just had a great. I'm glad you brought him up. Great article on NBC Sports Philly, and he wrote about Stoutland University, right? Stoutland University, and when you think about that, he talked about how many Pro Bowlers, okay, that Stoutland has been able to have. So check this out. So this is from Ruben Stutter. Ruben Stutter. You tell I watched American Idol. This is from Ruben Frank from NBC Sports Philadelphia. He writes, before offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland joined the Eagles staff, they only had 20 Pro Bowls made by O linemen in 50 years. Since Stoutland arrived in Philly, they've had 22 Pro Bowls by linemen in only 10 years. Think about that. You talk about an untouchable coach. You talk about a GOAT. That's Jeff Stoutland. That's Jeff Stoutland. And if I am not mistaken, Jeff Stoutland was brought in by Chip Kelly. Right? And again, if Jeff Stoutland is brought in by Chip, then Chip gave us two great moves. That was him. Yes, he was. He was hired by Chip Kelly in 2013. So Chip did two great things for us. Okay. Maybe three by saying, yo, Philly at Wing Bowl, right? Which was ridiculous. But Chip did two things for us in Philadelphia. He brought us Jeff Stoutland and he drafted Lane Johnson. So when you think about that, that's the two things that Chip gave us. And again, if you want to get involved in this program, It's very easy. Comment away on any social media that you are on, whether it be X, whether it be on YouTube. But YouTube's not really social media, but digital media. If you're on Facebook, but there's also, again, there's a StreamYard link. I know people think it's StreamYard and they think it's video. That's not video. This is audio. So it's just like a radio station, except you don't have to wait. So if you have a point of emphasis, you want to call in, man, give me a call. All you need to do is pick up your phone, click on that link, and I'll get you on the air and we can have a conversation. Give me your favorite NFL power couple. Give me what you think is going on with the Eagles on defense right now. Give me we haven't even talked Sixers yet, which we're going to do on the other side when we talk about Zach LaVine. Would Zach LaVine's discount, would you take a Zach LaVine now? I was going back and forth. I'm going to read a couple tweets with one of the guys from Philly that mentioned who we would give up for Zach LaVine. I want to see what you guys think. Would you give that up for Zach LaVine? But the one thing to get back to Stoutland, the one thing that makes him so special is you never hear a bad thing about him, right? Never. I've never heard anybody come out say a bad thing about Jeff Stoutland, and that's when you've made it. That's when you've really carved your spot in history. That's where you really carved your spot on the sidelines, within a franchise, within a particular sport. And listen, hats off to Chip for that. Because if Chip doesn't think about that. If Chip doesn't bring us Jeff Stoutland, who knows if we have Lane Johnson as a Pro Bowler? Who knows if we have Jordan Mailata as a Pro Bowler? Who knows, right? Who knows if we have the development of Jason Kelsey as one of the best centers of all time? Right. So, that's the thing. You have to think about that. So at least Chip Kelly gave us something. And, it's so funny because, and again, not to get sidetracked, but a lot of people, when we talk about Sirianni and should he be on a hot seat, if he is on a hot seat, where do they look? And I continue to say this, man, for all the people that think it's going to be college, I'm telling you right now that the Eagles are not bringing in a college coach. They're just not going to do it. That was the one-shot deal for them. That was the one shot where Jeffrey Lurie went out of his comfort zone and didn't listen to Howie and said, I'm going to bring a guy in. This is the guy that everybody wants. Everybody wants Chip Kelly. This guy is setting records out there in Oregon. Or at Baylor. Or Oregon. I'm sorry. He's setting records out there, right? He's setting records out there. And he's the new innovative Sean McVay. That's who he is, right? He's this innovative offensive genius. And that Jeffrey Lurie, just like Chris Franklin, that you heard earlier, make sure you give him a follow at C Franklin News, alluded to, right? When he said that Jeffrey Lurie likes points. He likes offense, right? And that's why he brought in Chip Kelly. Now, we didn't know. We didn't know. I mean, where you were for that first half, right, of the Washington Redskins game on Monday Night Football. And I did say Redskins because that's who they were. Now they are the Commanders, but I'm going to refer to them as the Redskins at that time because that's who they were, right? Let's remember that. We were all jumping up and down thinking we're going to the Super Bowl, right? Michael Vick, Deshaun Jackson. I mean, you saw the tiredness of the offensive line. You saw the tiredness of the defensive line. Man, they couldn't even make substitutes. They didn't know what hit them. That was Chip Kelly's claim to fame, man. That was it. And then the egotistical Chip Kelly came out, right? Where you trade Shady McCoy for Kiki Alonso, right? Really? Again, and I he kept saying that culture trumps talent, or but listen, and I get it. Shady wasn't the same, man. Deshaun wasn't the same. That's a funny thing. People seem to, forget that. These guys were not saints. So yes, he looked at it as, instead of, well, the veterans will hold them down and hold down that behavior, he looked at it as a personal vendetta against him and his coaching style, and was like, we're just going to get them out of there because I know my offense is that good that I can run it with anybody. That was Chip Kelly's downfall, man. But he did go on a rant a couple of weeks ago about what he would do to change college football all around, and he was very articulate about it, and he was very decisive, and he was very intelligent when he spoke. The dude is a very smart guy. some guys just aren't cut out for the NFL, right? They're just not cut out for the NFL. And the thing is, I think Chip, right? I think Chip would be a hell of an offensive coordinator. But again, ego says he'll never be a coordinator because he wants to be the guy. He needs to be in charge. He wants to do things his way, right? So he's like a Sean McVay, but unfortunately, he doesn't have the ability to coach like a Sean McVay. And you're right, Adam. Chip brought in DeMarco Murray and Sam Bradford, right? Horrible, horrible. But again, that was Chip as the GM, which we know he couldn't be. He brought those two guys in because number one, the DeMarco Murray thing to me. This is my take on the DeMarco Murray situation. When Chip Kelly brought in DeMarco Murray, it had nothing to do with talent, had nothing to do with scheme, had nothing to do with playability. Chip Kelly was trying to win over the Philadelphia fan base by bringing in an ex-Cowboy and thought, if I can bring in an ex-Cowboy and I can run it in their face, I'm going to be a legend in this town, because Chip Kelly has one of the biggest ego. I don't know who's had a bigger ego, him or Aaron Rodgers. Like, both of those dudes are so egotistical. I don't know who could fit in a doorway first. Would it be Chip Kelly or would it be Aaron Rodgers? I'm not sure. But that's why, to me, Chip brought in DeMarco Murray. And guess what? Think about it. If Chip was able to utilize DeMarco Murray before he was completely run down and cooked, he would have been a legend in this town. He would have brought in DeMarco Murray to shove it down our arch nemesis neck. He would have brought in Lane Johnson, the best right tackle in Philadelphia history since John Runyon. Okay. And he would have brought in the best offensive line coach in the history of the NFL in Jeff Stoutland. He'd have been a legend. Chip Kelly would have been a legend. But instead, he gets thought about as smoothies, doing dumb shit in the locker room, getting rid of players because he thought, you know what, I don't care. You think you're bigger than me? Get out. I don't need you. When he did, right? He gets thought about the Deshaun Jacksons and the Shady McCoys. And he gets thought about because he brought in Sam Bradford, right? To be, hey, listen, Sammy Sleeves, man. I still say it. Sam Bradford had every opportunity to be the modern day Joe Flacco, right? Like, think about that. He did. He had that opportunity, but he just couldn't do it, man. He just couldn't do it, right? And it's okay. Sammy had a couple moments, and he made a lot of money, so he's happy. But when you talk about these NFL power couples, to get back to that again, Heat Ratio Sports, HRS Late Nights. I'm Tony Cutillo. I am the host. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. Subscribe to the channel. Doing a lot of good things. Fourth and Go guys were just on earlier with Mark and Dave doing some cool stuff, man. 76 episodes going strong. Fourth and Go Radio. We're getting podcast page back up. We're getting that, and you'll be able to listen to the pod and listen. We again have some other cool things coming up, man. I can't wait. Sometimes you got to decide, when it's time. And for me, it's time, man. It's time. This is who I am. This is me. It's what I want to do, and I'm going to continue to do it. So, Joe says, Sammy Sleeves with multiple $100 million contracts, bigger thief than Cliff Lee. Joe hates Cliff Lee. I love it. Joe hates Cliff Lee. Right. But yeah, think about that. Sammy Sleeves. I don't know, man. I don't know who stole more money though, Sammy Sleeves or Chase Daniel. I still understand how Chase Daniels kept getting paid, man. He kept getting $8-10 million contracts, and he stunk. Chase Daniels was terrible. I have no idea how that dude kept getting money. No idea. But let's shift a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about the 76ers, because again, it's an exciting time to be a Sixers fan. I talked about that. It's exciting to be a Delaware Blue Coats fan, and if you have not heard already, you're listening to one of the hosts of the Blue Coats Beat, all new podcast for the Delaware Blue Coats, powered by Heat Ratio Sports. Me and Coach Joe co-hosting the entire show, doing interviews with players, past and present. Doing player spotlights. Episode 4 be coming up very, very shortly. We just talked to Sonny Hill for almost an hour, which was fantastic. A lot of good talent down there, man, in Blue Coville. You saw Lofton get some clock on the Sixers the other night. Ricky Council. I keep saying it. He's the next star in this town, man. If he could stay healthy and he could see that Ricky Council is going to be the next star, I'm telling you, man, this dude, it's unbelievable, right? It's unbelievable what he's doing. So a lot of good times and watching the development of Tyrese Maxey and watching the, I wouldn't say development, but the maturation of Joel Embiid has been pretty special. So the question though I have is, like, is it enough? Right? Is it enough? And if it's not enough, are you willing to go the extra mile? And again, Zach LaVine's name is out there, right? Zach LaVine's name is out there. So, I wrote on Twitter that, Sixers Daily wrote there's, quote at Woj on NBA Countdown, says there's no market for Zach LaVine right now. Says they may, in the end, speaking of the Chicago Bulls, just be glad that they can find a team that will take on this contract. Says, could the Sixers snag Zach LaVine for minimal value via Cody Westerland? So again, that begged the question, do we try to look at trading for Zach LaVine, knowing that his value's down? Now, my man on X, my man Philly 4for4, give him a follow at _ Philly 4for4. Really good follow. Engagement, love it. Always comment and liking. And he says he would do Tobias, Springer, Martin, and a first. And he said he'd also consider Melton, as he's another expiring deal they probably won't sign. He said throw in whatever amount of seconds you can, since they don't hold much value. So I went back to him and said, okay, but are you afraid of the chemistry Melton has with the team right now, though? He says, I really like what Melton can do for this team on a nightly basis. Ideally, he's not a starter. If we could come away with another guard who's two-way and has some size and leave Melton to the bench, I love it. I'm really only willing to trade Melton if Zach doesn't cost a lot of draft assets and we could package what we possibly have left to get a Caruso type. Dream trade would be grabbing both of those guys from Chicago. Very, very interesting. And I'll tell you what I like about what Philly 4for4 said was about Melton. Because I've said this before, and I'll say it again in this town. We always over-evaluate the backup players. We always do. And the reason why we do is because we fall in love with these people. And then once they get exposed because they're playing too much, then all of a sudden, guess what? Now we're mad. Now we're mad and we're thinking, what's going on here? And to me, DeAnthony Melton is playing his ass off. I like what DeAnthony Melton's been able to do. He's a very good two-way player. But again, if what Philly 4for4 says, and again, give him a follow at _ Philly 4for4 on Twitter. Good follow. Like I said, very engaging. He makes a good point. Now you get Melton to come off the bench to lead your second unit. And now you insert Zach LaVine, and now your big three is going to be Maxey, Embiid, and LaVine. You still have Batum, right? You still have Covington. You still have Bev coming off the bench, right? You still have these guys coming off the bench, man. Like, you think about it, and now you have Melton coming off the bench. I mean, everybody has to remember, when you get to the playoffs, you're playing 6 to 7 guys. That's it, right? It's not that. And I think that I don't think they get Caruso, but I do think that they get some backcourt help. Maybe an expiring contract somewhere. They could work out some second round picks, or I do think that they get somebody. I'm not sure who's out there. I'm not sure what they do, but I do think that they're seeing the chemistry on the team, and I think that they can go all in. this year. And I'm not saying that they're going to compete for a championship, but they could. You just never know, right? You just never know. Um, I got to pivot to football for a minute because I'm looking at some stuff about Justin Fields. Seth Walder, ESPN analytics writer, writes, I cannot believe Justin Fields versus QB at number one is even a conversation. A fourth-year quarterback who has never finished higher than 15th in QBR or an elite quarterback prospect on a fresh deal. It's not a hard call. It's barely a choice at all. Listen, man, I'm sorry. I, I don't. And Javon DM'd and quote DM'd it. He said it's an easy call. You keep Fields and you get to build around him. And I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Javon, again, make sure you follow Javon at Javon10. Great follow on socials. Always dropping some really good content. He just wrote, I love this quote, man. He wrote, it's cool to be somewhere where you are valued. It changes your outlook on everything and brings a renewed sense of self. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. It is so goddamn true, right? So goddamn true. When you are respected and you are revered and you are given the time of day, it's a good place, man. You're in a good place. So it sounds like Javon found a really good home, which is good, man. Like my man works hard. I love watching these people get like really good opportunities, man. Really good opportunities. But looking at the NBA, I think the NBA again is wide open. I really do. I don't think anybody's running away in the NBA this year. I mean, listen, talk about nobody running away, but how about some teams that are possibly better than we thought they were? Like I have to ask this, and this is going to stick to basketball. And again, if you're following the show right now, let me know. Throw in a comment when I ask this question. If not, if you're listening to this on replay, make sure you hook it up. You like number one, you subscribe, and you engage. Biggest thing, engage, man. I love to talk. But I also love to talk on socials. I love to get in the comment sections. I'm going to get a mailbag coming soon. So you guys can email when you have a specific time, and you can tell me I suck, or you could tell me at the end of the day you like the show and you got a good point. And talking about NBA, I have to ask, man, is Tyrese Halliburton as good as we thought he was, in a sense that, or I should say, is he better than we thought? Like, are we talking about a top 5 NBA player right now in Hallie? Because he is playing with some undeniable energy, passion, and confidence. And he's catapulting that Pacers team to a level I didn't think they could get to. I honestly, I did not. And he looks like the real deal, man. The other night, I forget who he crossed up and he hit that shot, but I mean, it was effortless, man. It was effortless. That dude's talented. And that's the thing about the NBA right now. I say that all the time. Like, the NBA is filled with young talent. Like, you can actually now throw an NBA game on, even if it's the Detroit Pistons, and watch a guy like Isaiah Stewart, watch a guy like Kay Cunningham, guys that actually have skill as a young player that are only going to continue to evolve. And that's what's great about it, right? I love watching it. I love watching it. So that's what's great about it. And there's so many of those young guys, so many. And again, like I said, some of them are playing at the Chase Fieldhouse for the Delaware Bluecoats, and you'll see them on a two-way every now and then coming up to the Sixers team, and rightfully so. And I think that this team is going to make a move. Just not sure what it's going to be, but it's a great point by Philly 4 for 4 talking about if you can keep the Anthony Melton and put him back to the bench and give you that strong force to give you those 22 to 25 minutes every game at the second unit, I think it's key. You throw Bev out there with D Melt, and again, Paul Reid, B ball Paul. You get that, you get that triangle going between the three of them, and again, this is something that can work, and this is something that you need to build for the postseason. And they're looking at that. They're looking at that 100%. They are 100% looking at that. Again, who is your NFL Power Cup? Asking that again, is it? We had a lot of good ones come in. For me personally, I think I still, even though there's a lot of good ones out there, this is going to sound crazy, man. This is going to sound crazy, and I'll talk about this before we get to our wrestling segment because I want to talk a little wrestling tonight because Triple H made a big announcement about Money in the Bank in Toronto, and the WWE is just on another level right now. But AEW starting to pick up as well, and I'm an AEW guy too, and I'm just a wrestling fan in general. And shout out to my man Tom Latimer. Love Tom Latimer, man. Talked to Tom Latimer a lot. Interviewed him a couple times. We just exchanged texts the other day, and he's a good dude, man. He's a really good dude, and was holding that NWA championship. Married in real life to Camille, who is being heavily touted by the WWE. Decided to not renew her NWA contract since September. I think September 23rd was her last match, and she's out there, man. So you could see her in a WWE very, very soon. So shout out to Camille and Tom. I know they just got back from the UK trip, so and he was visiting home. So congratulations to a good 2023, and I'm looking forward to big things for both of them in 2024, and possibly have them on the program as well. So I'm going to get some wrestling guests as well because I love talking wrestling. And speaking of that, let's get right into wrestling. Because obviously at the final hour, some of the calls drop off because it is late, which is fine. But I have to ask, man. I have to ask. Number one, we look at several talents from the female side. And I bring this up because the females are in the news more nowadays in wrestling over the last few months than the males. And a lot of it is because they are constantly going back and forth to divisions and federations, and because like at the end of the day, unfortunately, women's wrestling I don't think gets their due, right? I don't think it gets their due, and I think it's bigger than it's ever been, and rightfully so. And let me write this because all right, here we go. So this is what I want to talk about. This is what I want to talk about. Hold on, technical difficulty here for a minute. Virtue. There we go. All right. So the other night on AEW in our hometown, I talked about this a little bit last night, but I wanted to elaborate on it. Okay, I wanted to elaborate on it, and the reason why I want to elaborate on it is because I think this wrestler, and not because I covered her before. Okay, let me preface by saying that, not because I covered her before, but because I think her promo ability, her creativity, and her in-ring submission style is very underrated. And I right here, women's wrestling is on the rise. The virtuosa is underrated. Like, if you don't know who the virtuosa is, that is Deonna Purrazzo. And Deonna Purrazzo really took on this virtuosa character and really made it next level. Okay. Made it next level. I'm going to be honest with you. And I say that because, in order to build a character in character development, you have to own your character, right? Like legitimately, like you have to own the character. And coming with that ownership is being able to be that character on and off script, right? When you least expect it, you have to go in that character mode. Deanna really, not only did she go in that character mode, but her matches were fantastic. Like her battles with Mickey James, even at the stage of Mickey James' career, were in my opinion, I'm telling you, man, they were epic. They were epic to me. I thought they were fantastic. I love the virtuosa theme. I love the creativity. I had Deanna on when TNA and Impact and NWA and Ring of Honor, when they were coming into Philadelphia. And listen, Deanna, man, she just commanded the microphone. She commanded a presence. I, I'll be honest with you. Like her entrance rivaled that of a Charlotte Flair. I'm telling you right now. I honestly, I think I'd rather watch the virtuosa on the microphone right now than a Charlotte Flair. And shout out uh Charlotte Flair, get well soon. She had the surgery and she's gonna be out of action for a while. Major injury, and gonna take her some time to heal. So I'm sure she'll be giving us back that natural selection really, really soon. And obviously uh you know, the epic princess of professional wrestling, the queen that might have you. And again, I look at Deanna Purrazzo as being that same kind of charismatic individual. And speaking of charismatic individual, AEW, bringing her in, and Tony Storm just doing a fantastic job, right? You had the virtuoso come out, but what about Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné? Right? Is it going to, is she going to get the money that she's seeking, and does she deserve that money? I will say this: we talked about The Rock coming back and getting that tremendous pop, right? We talked about that. We talked about some other characters, coming out. I remember when AJ Styles made his debut at the Royal Rumble. I thought he got a tremendous pop. Obviously, CM Punk coming back. But I'll tell you what, man, like the pops that, Sasha Banks would get, like that whole legit boss character who, let's remember, who does she owe for that character? The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. She owes Dusty Rhodes for that character. So Dusty Rhodes was in charge of making that character for Sasha Banks. Worked with her for promo skills, worked with her on the microphone, worked with her for charisma. I mean, he worked with her all the time. Remember, because he was in NXT specifically for that. So when you think about Sasha Banks, you have to think about Dusty Rhodes. And now, you see the evolution of Sasha being Mercedes Moné, and her entrances and in Japan have been fantastic. She could still, as long as she doesn't get hurt, because she does get hurt a lot, but she puts on a good match, man. She puts on a really good match. And listen, now that you have the prospects of a Trinity Fatu coming back to the WWE, possibly somebody like a Camille, who has some fantastic in-ring ability. And I'm telling you right now, if you don't know the name Camille, you need to start watching wrestling. You need to Google Camille, and you need to go back and you need to watch Camille and watch some of her matches. And you'll be like, wow, she's really good. Okay. She's cut out, man. This isn't, Velvet Sky, no disrespect, but going out there. This is a hardcore. Camille can hold her own, man. She can hold her own. And I'd be happy to see her at the WWE. And when you think about it, if you bring Trinity back, you have Camille, you have Becky, you have, listen, Bianca Belair, who just steals the show at times, right? I still think Zoe Stark is an up and coming star. I do. Listen, do we even have to mention Rhea Ripley, how amazing she is? And then we still haven't seen Jade Cargill, which, listen, Jade Cargill is 100% going to be at the Royal Rumble. You know that, right? Like, are we even thinking that's an option that she's not going to be there? She's been in the performance center. She's been training her ass off. She's learning the rope. She's really developing a bigger in ring presence. She's a monster when you look at her. Again, so you think about what she'll be able to do for the women's division. And we still haven't even talked about Bailey, who I like I said before, is such an integral part of the women's division. You didn't talk about, other, and when I say other, meaning NXT, like a Tiffany Stratton that's going to be coming up. That's phenomenal, phenomenal, Tiffany Stratton, right? So I mean, there are so many good female wrestlers right now. And listen, don't discount the fact, okay? Don't discount the fact of the whole, husband, wife kind of concept with people coming back because, you have AJ Lee, right? You have AJ Lee possibly training, for a match like, a little run, little mixed tag team, with CM Punk. You have Trinity Fatu coming back, could she be a possible bloodline member because of her husband, right? So you have to think about this kind of stuff, right? You have to think about, I mean, it's wide open right now. It is wide open, and it's a good time, man. Listen, it's a fabulous time, to be a wrestler. And what we talked about the other night, and again, this is I understand. I'm not going to say whether he should or he shouldn't because I know there's some issues with people with Hulk Hogan. All right, but Hulkamania 40th anniversary is going to be celebrated by the WWE. And listen, Hulkamania was a big part of my rise into wrestling, right? I mean, eat your vitamins, say your prayers. Listen, I was a Hulkamaniac. I watched Saturday night's main event to see how many times Hulk Hogan could drop the leg, body slam somebody, and retain a belt, just like we have right now with Roman Reigns. I had that, and I have a lot of Hulk Hogan moments. I listen, let's just remember that when he turned heel, he was the one guy that everybody would never suspect to turn heel, right? So again, that's why a lot of people were jumping on John Cena when they were like, "Yo, we need to see John Cena as a heel." So listen, it's a really, really, really good time to be a wrestling fan, and I think that you're going to continue to see more and more. Another person I think you can see come back is Mickey James. I think Mickey James has another run. Listen, her husband's the GM of SmackDown. Which let everybody remember about Nick Aldis. I'm going to tell you something. If anybody is going to fill the wrestling GM role, like the wrestling manager role, it's going to be Nick Aldis, right? Like, I think that's what happened, right? This is the way I look at this. Vince McMahon made a hell of a storyline by him being able to wrestle specific matches and put on a fantastic show. And I guarantee you, stealing that from the Rock, I guarantee Trips wanted to do the same thing until he had the heart issue, until he had a health issue, and he had to retire from the in-ring action. And at that time, I think he was thinking in his mind, like, who's going to be that next guy? Right? It can't be Shane. You saw that. It can't be Shane. Who's going to be the next guy? Who's going to be the guy that's going to come out and be that wrestling presence at management? And he looked around and said, let's bring the GMs back. And I think Adam Pearce could probably drop a couple punches in there. But Nick Aldis is still in his like late 30s. Like, this dude's got a lot of wrestling left in him. So don't think for one moment that you'll not see Nick Aldis in a wrestling ring and possibly whether it be a mixed tag, whether it be a run in a championship, maybe it'd be like a U.S. title. I could see a really good match like Nick Aldis and Jake Paul. I think something like that could really happen. That's if Jake Paul decides he's ever going to put the belt on the line, but that's a story for another day. So yeah, I mean, you think about it. I think women's wrestling is on the rise, and if you have an opinion about women's wrestling, who are your underrated women's wrestlers of today, man? Put them in the comments. After the show goes off air, doesn't matter. I'll still be able to read the comments. But again, man, great show tonight. Great show. And again, this show is, Monday to Friday, 11 to 1. There'll be nights that go 11 to 12, 11 to 12:30. Right. Listen, it's my show. It's my network, and I can run it, the way I need to. Now, if I have sponsors, which I have a couple coming on board already, obviously I will make sure they get their just due. Right. But there's other ways in just the show to highlight the sponsorships. And again, I'm a PR marketing guy, and I know how that works. So we're going to end this tonight. We went about an hour and a half. I think, really, really good night. A lot of great topics. No sense to rehash the stuff we've already talked about. If we have a continuous conversation, keep going, then on many nights, I'll continue to go. But, on conversations that, we have and we continue to hit, and it's like, okay, do we start another brand new one or not? We can end early, and that's what we're going to do tonight. So shout out to everybody joining as always. Thomas, thank you again for coming by. I appreciate Joe, as always, Adam, Javon on Twitter. And again, to my man, Chris Franklin at C Franklin News, make sure you're following him and getting that right information when it comes to Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of stuff to say. And the real Michael KB from 97.3 ESPN dropped a ton of Sixers talk the night before. That is up right now on the YouTube site. And again, as always, man, make sure you like and subscribe to show you. Everybody asks, like, how can we help you, Tony? You know how you help? Get the word out, man. Get the word that there's an alternative at night. There's an alternative at night that you could just throw on your phone and listen just like you do on FM radio. It doesn't matter. It's probably more clear. It's probably more interactive, and it's a lot more fun. So this is HRS Late Nights from Heat Ratio Sports. I am Tony Cutillo. And like I say, man, as always, I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. We're going to get a ton of snow, get a ton of rain. But either way, man, be safe out there. Let's not kill anybody over parking spots, get crazy with cones. And this, listen, I get it. I understand the concept. But, man, we got to find a better way to get along in 2024. So hopefully everybody can find that peace. I really do, because I think everybody absolutely really. This time, we're going to close this out. Like I always say, man, everybody, the support has been amazing. This show has been great. The guests have been great. I have more guests lined up for next week. And again, beat reporters, podcasters, content creators. I love them all, man. I do. And the ones that I respect are the ones that you're going to see on this show. No disrespect to anybody else, but if I don't respect you, you're not going to get the invite. It's as simple as that. So as always, man, everybody, when you're out there, you're traveling, everybody stay safe, stay healthy. We'll catch you back here next time on HRS Late Nights with